What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and today we're going to talk about how you finding your highest percentage shot could be exactly what's separating you from great golf to terrible golf. But before we dive in, we have to ask the most important question of the day. How you doing today, Isaiah? You having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
So I have to admit that this video is inspired from a couple of conversations that are happening across the internet. One of which was someone reached out to me and said they were doing a tournament prep series. And I thought this was a really cool concept that I think I've talked about before on the channel, but I really wanted to highlight more. And the other was one another friend had talking about a performance that he had recently and sort of defending himself. And I think the internet has attacked him for that performance. But we're going to talk about both as it settles in, but today we're talking high percentage shots. So what is a high percentage shot? A high percentage shot is something that you feel like in time after time, you have the ability to throw said shot to find a certain performance or scoring opportunity, and you are able to repeat that again, or when you throw that, a high percentage shot has a very high chance of success consistently. An example of a high percentage shot is going to be something along the lines of seeing like a narrow corridor, or there's space wide out and around for you to throw the hyzer. It's one thing to be able to throw a straight shot, which is one of the hardest shots to throw in disc golf, and it's another to throw the hyzer, which is one of the most reliable and easiest shots to throw in disc golf. Now that's going to change based on who you are and what strengths you have in your game, but we'll talk about that more as the video goes on. Throwing down the gut of this corridor can be sort of low percentage, and you could hit it and it seems like the easier route to get to the basket, but that high percentage shot of success, there is less error and less bad opportunities of throwing out and around everything. This is why, for instance, you'll hear pros talk about breaking a hole, where the course designer has forced them into a corridor or something like that, and you'll see pros often with huge distance potential go up and over things or go out and around things, and you're standing there on the tee box like, wow, I can't even imagine throwing how far they did and adding 150 plus feet to the hole. But because they have the distance and the consistency to hit those become much higher percentage shots for them, so they're going to take them again and again. Now, the conversation that I had regarding tournament prep and high percentage shots is that the advice that I wanted to give, if I can only give one piece of advice to tournament players, it's that there are going to be so many shots that may occur while you're playing the round, because usually in tournaments you're playing with folks that you don't normally play with. So you're going to see holes attacked in a way that you may not have ever seen before. People throwing a certain speed or type of disc that you've never considered before, or even alternate shot shapes that you may not have considered, or third, lines that you really just didn't think were on the table, and yeah, they're throwing them every time. I was on the phone with the guys from Overthrow today, and I was talking to Mikey about when is the video coming out of Mikey talking about turnover forehand shots, because in the Imposter series happening over on Foundation's channel, Mikey in the rain kept going to this turnover forehand putter. Now, in his defense, when you're in the rain, it is tough to grip premium plastic discs, and that was the only base plastic disc he had. So he started going with the high percentage shot he had, which was throwing that base plastic disc. This makes sense and really embraces this shot selection mentality that we're talking about here. And this is where the rubber really meets the road, because for some people, they were playing in the rain and they were continuing to try to throw standard shots because those felt like the highest percentage shots from them. But kudos to Mikey for adapting and being willing to realize, hey, I don't have the consistency or the grip I'm looking for to throw those types of shots. So he turned around and started throwing what he knew worked for him in the forehand turnover shots. So when you're playing a tournament for the first time, I want you to find what works for you, lean into that and throw it, even if it seems weird to other folks, or everyone else threw weird stuff and you're like, I just thought what I was doing was like the most normal thing. Don't get baited into the trap of doing something crazy just because you saw them throw it and you were like, oh, that seems kind of cool. Now, hole 12 at Gardendale is a great example of a hole that is a high percentage shot hole that lots of people are going to try to copy routes or not come up with a very good solution in order on how to tackle this. I've talked about this hole several times in the past, but lots of folks are going to try to go air shot. And when I try to go air shot, and lots of folks when they try to go air shot are going to hit some of these first available trees. And as you can see on the close-ups of them, they're not alone in hitting those trees. Several people have hit those kind of trees. And I'm sure you have courses like that on your wooded courses in the area that it's just like, wow, I cannot believe that we are just attacking these over and over again. Now, do I think it's possible to throw it down there? Sure, because it's only 150 feet. So I can step up with a Precious Child and just try to go air shot here. And boom, it gets down there. Now that feels super repeatable. We just bounced off of the pole, so why would I not do that over and over again? Well, because when I try to throw other discs, it brings in some potential of hitting a tree back there. Now I'm scrambling, but of course, you know, I'm not just gonna say, oh, I threw one intentionally bad shot, and I don't want you guys to think. So I'm gonna go 4 shots here. Let's see what happens. I'm going flippy discs, trying to throw it down there. All right, second one's down there. 2 of these. I'm going flippy disc once again. And boom. I hit trees, early left. I am in what they would call the struggle zone. 50% of the shots did not go according to plan. So what's my play here? My play is that I actually throw a forehand roller. Now, a forehand roller is where you're gonna take this disc, put it on a forehand, you're gonna chop it into the ground and try to get it to roll up the fairway. The key for me on this forehand roller is that I have messed around with this shot quite a few times, and I know that my landing zone is somewhere right around here. Now, does this net me a birdie every single time? No. But as we saw in the air shot, some of these air shots end up in really tough, tricky scenarios where, like, I hit early. Let's say I hit one of these early trees. That's one thing. But I early release it left, and now from this position down here, I'm trying to, like, throw flex shots, and now I've left myself a, like, 30-footer down there on a 160-foot hole, throwing 2 shots and still having a 30-footer. That feels really bad. So what I learned is that the forehand roller for me is a very high percentage shot, because if I can hit that spot that I want to hit, it gets down to where I either have a birdie look or I have a pretty manageable par most of the time. One of the easiest ways to play this hole, to find your high percentage shot, is to just grab a putter, stand on the front of the tee, and just putt. But even that can still get messed up, as we saw. So we're gonna go forehand roller here and just try to put it on the ground. And boom, it's curled up next to the basket. Now I usually go felons here. I go like an overstable disc, but I'm gonna try with what we have. And last but not least, okay. Now that one's tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. That one is tough. Perhaps if I decided, instead of going with less stable drivers, yeah, that was the key. Okay, so disc selection really did hang me up on that last one, because for this forehand roller, I want a very specific type of disc. I don't want to go with like a zone or something like that that's a little more round. I want that faster rim because it gets down there and gives me a high potential shot. So let's go ahead and scoop these up and see where the putts end up going. So this eagle that we know was the wrong choice ended up as deep in these woods as possible. This is not good, it is not ideal, but still I have the potential to pitch up and out. Those are probably some of the best drives that I've ever had on a backhand on that hole, and pretty stock shots on a forehand roller, and I've never been that far in the woods and we still saved the par. Once again, do I think that that forehand roller is the shot everyone should throw? Absolutely not. But I've practiced it, and it really becomes a brain off play for me that, I mean, truly, I can't tell you the last time that I took a bogey throwing a forehand roller on that hole. But even for that pig shot, if I hadn't thrown a phenomenal putt after that upshot, we end up with a bogey there. And that's with me throwing pigs that I love and adore. You've got to find your shot that works for you and lean into it and throw it with confidence. That is the biggest thing. Pick your shot, throw it with confidence, and don't let people try to tell you wrong. Which takes us to the second conversation happening on the internet with my friend from Imposter Disc Golf. I love me some Josh White. I think Josh White is one of the greatest human beings in disc golf. And I know that the internet rung him up for that forehand roller on hole 2, episode 1. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out Lord Brody and that whole situation. My man, Josh White, might be one of the best players in disc golf at throwing unconventional shots. I have never seen someone master the sky forehand roller in a way that Josh White has. He is my favorite person to play doubles with that I have ever played with, because I know that I can make the putts he sets up the drives, and if we ever find ourselves in a scramble situation, we both have a weird number of skills available to throw scramble shots to get out. But if I feel like I have more than most, Josh has an insanely higher amount than I do. So how do we feel about that shot on hole 2? I believe Josh practiced that shot, and I know he practiced that shot and did extremely well with it in the past. Now, I think he would tell you in hindsight that maybe in the format they were playing, it wasn't the best shot to go with, but it was the confident shot and he leaned into it. And I think that if that is what you've got to do, you lean in and you throw your shot. For instance, on the hole that we're about to play, there is some traditional throws that people might go with, and then there is options. Hole 7 is 287 feet, 81 feet, and the basket just sits there behind the double mando. Now, this is a hole that people can attack a multitude of ways, and I've seen people who are like, oh, it's 281. Once you get to the back part of the hole, it's downhill. So people will grab putters, and they will just say, hey, the putter is my shot for this. But then they try to throw it too hard, and they yeet that thing all the way down there because they're telling themselves, I could reach it with a putter, and so I'm gonna throw it. And that is not necessarily a high percentage shot. Just because you found success with it once doesn't make it a high percentage shot. That one time you found success could have been a 5% chance of success. So let's say that I don't wanna go with that route. I don't wanna go with a putter, so I'm gonna step up to a mid-range. And that's gonna be my better play. So I'm gonna come through with the mid-range, and I'm gonna try to put it there. Now I get afraid of this gap, and so I throw it weak. I've thrown it over there, it's in circle 2. Let's say that I even wanna go flippier because I'm so afraid of missing this gap. I talked about this in the sole video that I've done recently where I grab this sole and I come through with it and I try to turn it. But unfortunately, I just missed the mando. When I throw the backhand on this hole, I get so many fears internally to it, which is why my high percentage shot is a forehand. The hole slopes left to right. So if you throw the forehand, it actually runs away from you a good bit. So how do I correct this? I grab my forehand disc and I actually aim it high at the left side. Now the cool part about this is that the mando is actually settled with the front left one being further forward. So I also like the forehand because if I swing it at all, I actually swing into the wider side of the mando, which makes this an even higher percentage shot. But mostly, I'm just trying to throw a bullet up the left side. Now here, I turn it over and I'm up there. Did I make the mando? Yes, I sure did. Am I in a great position? No, but that's because I overturned it. And so what I can do is I can go even more aggressive with the zone that has a little more flex to it. And bada boom, bada bing, it's next to the basket. So at the end of the day, it comes down to you picking what works for you. What is your highest percentage shot? And not only what is your highest percentage shot, let's say on a particular hole, but also find your highest percentage shot for the day even. When you're playing tournaments, if you're out there, make sure that you're looking for, hey, I'm throwing this shot or this disc really well, lean into it and don't overforce it to make it work on holes that it's not supposed to, but also don't be afraid to really lean in and let something rip, especially when it's working. You are playing a game of odds. That is really what this comes down to. And the reason the pros and the best players in the world are the best players in the world is because their odds and their ability to repeat certain shots and percentages is just significantly higher than ours are in terms of consistency on throwing good shots. Because I know the joke, what you talking about, Mr. YouTube man? I'm consistent. I'm consistently bad. No, let's not do that. Let's not push that narrative, brother. You got this. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope that you can think a little bit more about finding those high percentage shots for you, because I really do think that if more people spent time finding their high percentage shots, you would find success all over the course. And I think when you have a high percentage shot and you talk yourself out of it to throw something that other people think is conventional or other people think is right, it's just gonna create a heap of issues for you over and over again and lower your confidence. And really, let's play that scenario out. You think that X shot is a high percentage shot, and so you get talked into throwing Y shot because it's a higher percentage or quote normal for other people. Y shot doesn't go well, and so now not only are you kicking yourself and feeling bad because you threw Y shot, but you're also kicking yourself even further because you know that X shot was better overall and probably was the right play. So now you're doubting your ability to execute because of Y shot, but also your decision making and why did you let yourself get talked out of X shot. Whole lot of algebra going on here, but y'all, I mean it. Find your shot, lean into your shot, play your shot. And if other people want to throw some shots that seem crazy to you, if they're a good player, lean into it. Probably better to throw a confident shot that is slightly wrong than it is to throw the quote right shot unconfidently. This is probably going to spark some form of debate in the comments, and I apologize for that. But I'm here for discussion. Excited to hear your thoughts. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.